You know, if it were up to me, I'd probably hold on to Christmas a little longer. But the truth is, the holidays are over. And it's time to lay off the gluttony. And that's why I wanted to make today my salmon with quinoa and asparagus. It's light, bright, flavorful, and satisfying. So if you want a recipe to help you push the reset button, if you know what I mean, then come on, let's go into the kitchen, grab your asparagus, and I'll show you how to make this. If you need to calm down from all of that holiday rich and fatty foods like we do, then all you're gonna need to make this dish is salmon, asparagus, unsalted butter, quinoa, chicken broth, shallots, lemon juice, agave, garlic, Dijon mustard, olive oil, and fresh dill. I'm starting off with this herb dressing that's just so flavor bomb-tastic. I'm gonna start off by finely dicing, or you can even say mincing, a shallot, a small shallot. Make sure it's nicely minced because it's going into the dressing raw. Just gonna push that to the side. I need another shallot for my quinoa pilaf, so might as well cut it now. You don't have to worry about this being so minced because it's going to be cooked, so just a small dice is fine. I'm gonna work on the dressing. Start out with a fresh lemon, a little sunshine brightness on this dreary winter day. In this bowl, I'm gonna add 5 teaspoons of fresh lemon juice. Okay, I had plenty. You might only need a half a lemon if it's as big as mine. To that, I'm gonna add a squirt of Dijon mustard, 1 teaspoon, doesn't have to be exact. And then you need a tiny bit of sweetness from the agave, so 1 teaspoon also. And if you don't have agave, you can use honey instead, or sugar, or even leave it out if you like things a little bit tangy. And the last thing is a tablespoon of olive oil, so I just measured that out already. And see, because of that Dijon mustard, it emulsifies the olive oil and the lemon juice together into a creamy sauce. Now, add in that finely minced shallot, and this looks like a lot of shallot, even though it's a small one. But it's okay because you're not really going for like a real liquidy dressing. This is just kind of like a pickling marinade for your shallots. And I did say that this is an herb dressing, and I'm gonna use dill as my herb. I can even smell this with my cold, so you're just gonna need about a tablespoon. Whoa, that is way more than a tablespoon. I'm gonna measure that out. Okay, good. If you feel like it's a little too thick, you can go ahead and add a little bit more lemon juice. Okay, that's better. It's a little bit looser now. Last thing is to season with S&P, kosher salt and pepper. I'm just eyeballing it. It has so much flavor on its own already from the Dijon that you don't really need to add much. And the raw shallots should just pickle up in this vinaigrette. I'm just gonna slice the garlic up. 3 cloves of garlic into little slices. And this is for my asparagus at the end. I have over here 8 ounces of thick asparagus, and I mean thick. Look at these suckers. So if you see the pencil thin ones and that's all you can see, you can still make this recipe, but just have the cooking time. It's gonna cook way faster than you would want it to. You know the trick, right, of taking off the little stems? There you go. See, and then you chuck this wooded part. Honestly, I find this method to be a little wasteful. I feel like I end up snapping way more than I want to, and it's also kind of ugly, so I'm just gonna line it up and just cut it off where I think it's where I need to. There you go. So I always have a huge lifetime supply of quinoa in my pantry, and I usually just get it from Costco, but it's just a good staple pantry item to have because It's high in protein, low in carbohydrates, it's filling, it feels like a grain or rice, but it's not, and it's a seed. So this is perfect for a little bit of lighter meal. Lastly, of course, for my salmon recipe, I need salmon. So I have 2 8-ounce skinless fillets, and make sure they're about 1.5 inches thick. Now I'm just gonna season them lightly with salt and pepper on both sides. Okay, everything's ready. Let's go to the stove. We're gonna start with the quinoa pilaf first because it takes the longest to cook. So we're just gonna heat our pan, or actually our pot, and then we're gonna add a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm just eyeballing it. And then remember that shallot that I diced up before? Add that. And you know me, I always like to add a sprinkle of salt to help it sweat. Brings out the moisture. And you're just gonna let these go for about 2 minutes. Okay, so the shallot pieces are softened. And we're gonna add in our 1/2 cup of quinoa. And an important thing is that if your quinoa doesn't come pre-rinsed, then you're gonna have to rinse it yourself and then through a fine sieve because it does have a bitter coating on it. But these days, most quinoa packages come rinsed already. And this is the essence of a pilaf, toasting it first. This reminds me of an episode of Food Network Star. I used to watch that a lot. And one contestant was asked, what is a pilaf? And they didn't know the answer. And the judges were like, it's anything that you toast in oil first. So it kind of like stuck with me. So I think it'll stick with you now too. Okay, you can see that the color has changed. It's a little bit brown. Now you're gonna add in 1 cup of chicken broth. And I like a little sprinkling of salt and pepper just to boost up the flavor. Now I'm just gonna bring this up to a simmer, cover it, reduce it to low, and let it just simmer away on low for about 14 minutes. And then when it's done, then you can just set it on the side. I'm just preheating my pan now, making sure it's nice and screaming hot. So I'm gonna eyeball another tablespoon. All I'm gonna do is literally sear the tops and the bottoms of the salmon. And in this recipe, I want my salmon to be medium rare. I'm just kind of zhuzhing it around in my pan because my pan is not the greatest quality. It's getting a little bit non-stick. So I'm just gonna do this a little bit so it doesn't stick too much. And you're gonna let this go for anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes on the first side. And it depends on how big and how thick your fillets are. So just judge it. You don't want the sides of your fish to turn opaque. If it's getting opaque, then you're cooking it too long. Okay, the second side in anything, whether it's meat or fish, always takes shorter. So you're gonna go probably 2 to 4 minutes. But again, for me, it might even take 1 minute to 2 minutes, who knows? So I'm just gonna keep an eye on it. I have a clean plate. So this side looks pretty opaque, but this side looks kind of translucent. So let's poke it and see, it's nice and flaky, but you can see it's juicy and pink on the center. So for me, that's good. I'm going to just get my aluminum foil and tent it. And you know what? This is going to keep it warm, but it will also help it to continue to cook a little bit more through carryover cooking. I'm just going to wait until the quinoa is done and we'll start on the asparagus in the same pan. No need to rinse it. The quinoa is done. As soon as you see craters forming and most of the liquid has evaporated, but not all, it doesn't have to be bone dry, then you just put a clean kitchen towel on top and recover it with a lid. Turn it off the heat and it should retain its heat until you're finished with your asparagus, which takes a jiffy to do. And by the way, I saw my nephew over the holidays and he made us this little magnet. Isn't it so cute? Hi Hayden, thanks. So in the same fishy pan, there was enough olive oil in the pan from the fish, and then the salmon itself rendered some of its own natural oils too. So for me personally, I don't think I need to add more oil, but if it seems a little dry for you, you can add a tablespoon of oil to this. So I have those 3 cloves of garlic that were sliced thinly. In that oil, you're just gonna saute it until it turns golden brown and become kind of like garlic chips. But what you're doing here is you're also infusing that oil with the garlic, and the garlic chips will act as garnish. So I'm just fishing them out, putting them onto a paper towel lined little plate so that they can drain. And now to your same pan, you're gonna add 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. You're gonna grab half of your asparagus and put it down one direction and grab the other half and put it the other direction. Ooh, be careful, but I do have fireproof hands, so this way the stems can all cook around the same time as the points. Sprinkle with a little salt and pepper and then cover it with a lid for about 2 minutes. Okay. Oh yeah, so bright green and happy looking. Now, oh yeah, you can see how it's blistered on one side only, and that's what I'm looking for. Now I'm just gonna toss it for another minute so it's crisp tender. Okay, that looks good enough for me. So I'm just gonna take this off the heat and bring everything over to the table and plate it up. Now it's ready to plate, and sorry guys, but Joe is feeling way too under the weather to come out in the front of the camera and have a taste with me. So it's just me by myself, like season 1, but it's okay. I'll make it good for you. And now we're gonna start off with the quinoa. Ooh, still warm. I tried to put this salmon so prettily on top, but it totally broke apart on me. It's okay. That looks good. Garnish with some of those garlic chips. These are addicting. They add such a nice crunch and texture. And that's what the bed of quinoa underneath is for, because it'll sop up any extra vinaigrette. Some dill frond, like that. What do you think? Not too shabby, right? Oh yeah, it's so buttery and flaky and moist. You guys, oh, so tender and moist and juicy and soft. But because of that sharp pickled shallot dressing with the dill, it's so fresh, bursting with vibrant flavors. And the quinoa, nicely seasoned too, light, and just perfect all together. Go for a stem and a garlic chip. It has all the flavors of the garlic and the butter, and it's just enough. It's just so great and complementary with this dish. So now for substitutions, instead of asparagus, you can also use broccoli florets. I actually made this dish for a couple of our friends who were visiting, and I had only broccoli on hand. And they loved it. It was still great. Just use the same exact method with the garlic oil. And if you don't want to use dill for your herbs, you can use even mint or basil, and that would be amazing. It would add a nice level of freshness to it and a nice pop. Well, this is the point that I would probably say go check out our behind the scenes of the making this video. But we were feeling way too sick, and trust me, you don't want to see what went on behind the scenes. So instead, what I will say is be sure to check out our cookbook trailer. Yes, our Bits and Pieces Season 1 e-cookbook is finally done, and we have it available for sale, so be sure to check it out here. And also check out the making of our cookbook behind the scenes video. We'll link it down here. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and spending time with me today. Be sure to press like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Joe, you're missing out. You should be jealous. So good.